How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.
New Zealand, the better team by some distance in semi-final number 2 of the ICC Men's Champions Trophy. David Miller eventually reduced the margin of defeat. But how good was Mitchell Santner to back up the hundreds by Williamson and Rachin Ravindra, as New Zealand will now meet India again in the tournament and take the short flight back to Dubai for the final of the ICC Champions Trophy. This is Maruti Suzuki Arena Presents ESPN Crane for Match Day. We'll hear from Vernon, Philander and Tim Southee shortly. Sanjay Manjrekar is with me. Such a professional, efficient team New Zealand is, Sanjay.
And I'm always happy when, the cricketing logic prevails. We all thought New Zealand had the right ammunition to, win in conditions like we have in Dubai. They won the game at the halfway stage where we thought 80% chances of winning the game was New Zealand because of that, big score that they had on the board. 2 guys getting hundreds. But how good was the captain? I mean, the 3 wickets. You're looking at the backbone of South African batting. Klaasen was a huge wicket. And then Rassie was set and Bavuma as well. So, yeah, brilliant. I'm loving Mitchell Santner as captain more and more. And South Africa, that's another story that we'll come to. But for the moment, we got to say, well done, New Zealand. And I think that might just give them the confidence that they need playing against India.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that as well. We'll celebrate New Zealand for now. It makes it worthwhile for Tim Southee to be up at, 5 a.m. in Hamilton to watch his boys put in such a good effort. Tim, your reactions on how impressive that win was for New Zealand? Well, Tim just cannot find the words. He's in shock at the moment. We'll find him back in a second or two. I like that you say that it was won at the halfway stage. Clearly, this was an above-par score as the game panned out. However, the halfway stage of the chase, 150 odd for 3, and you thought, South Africa are up for this.
Yes, but when you look at the bowling combination that New Zealand have, if there's a left-hand, right-hand combination, and this pitch always, gives more to spinners than they had an off-spinner. In Bracewell, if Bracewell has finished his 10, they had a Glenn Phillips to go to, and Mitchell Santner bowled well, and if he's finished his spell, there's a Rachin Ravindra to go to. They want to take pace off, get the seamers back in. There's Matt Henry and a couple of big fast bowlers. So recovery was going to be difficult because of the kind of ammunition that New Zealand had right through with that South African batting lineup. For left-handers, right-handers, they had the bowlers.
Is it about ammunition or is it about preparation and plans and execution? Did they just have better personnel or did they have better plans today?
A combination of both. You might want 2 left-arm spinners, but you've got to have somebody like Rachin Ravindra who bowled a great delivery, that quick delivery to get a wicket, but a guy who also gets 100. And then you've got a Glenn Phillips who's got 100 earlier in the tournament, can bowl 6-7 good overs of off spin. So it's a combination of them investing in spin and having skills for the subcontinent. But the talent has also come through in a way that they're all quality spinners. Bracewell as well. I mean, good spinner who can bowl to, well-set right-hand batters as well.
Let's talk about how New Zealand set about bowling in what was supposed to be the more challenging time to bowl. We've seen England struggling to keep the runs down against Australia, and yet it's not like they had to wait till the end or the game was out of control. They almost kept that game in their control throughout. Why did that happen?
Well, I think to begin with, there's a quality in their seam bowling. Matt Henry comes in and he puts pressure straight away. Bavuma was very slow to get off. I think he had 3 runs of 18 balls or something. That's 3 runs in almost 3 overs. So that was always setting them back. And you just felt that if one bowler didn't work, they had somebody to go to. And the pitch wasn't changing drastically. It didn't become like a night game at the Wankhede Stadium where you have the bowlers, the talent, but the conditions just go against you. Nothing of the kind happened, and I think Mitchell Santner tactically is an excellent captain. Love the way he stuck with Glenn Phillips when David Miller was there. Didn't go to the faster bowlers because generally that is the time you go to the faster bowlers. So, a team that ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, I want to talk a little more about that. We're going to join Tim. I think Tim's celebrating with the New Zealand team right now. They don't have their phones on them, but he's going to get back to us in a moment. Until then, Vernon Philander has indeed joined us. Disappointing Vernon at the halfway stage in that chase, though. We thought, right, South Africa are in this. What went wrong?
Yeah, I think one has to give a lot of credit to the Kiwis. I think we talked about them being street smart. I think we spoke about how they obviously play conditions at hand, and I mean for them to use 4 spinners was a clear indication that they've done their homework on the South African batters. Of course, understanding that the guys, want the ball coming onto the bat. But again, I think that opening partnership for South Africa was always going to be crucial. I just don't feel at any point in time Themba Bavuma or Rassie van der Dussen could get going, and they needed that momentum up front. They needed to get off to a flyer. They got curbed, I think, a wonderful spell by Matt Henry with that new ball to really curb the run and flow for South Africa. And you could just feel that, the tension, the pressure was just keep on building, keep on mounting. And South Africa just couldn't get away from them. But again, summing up conditions perfectly and implementing plans. I think it's more plans than brilliance with with ball in hand. It was more about summing up what conditions were about, and they played conditions. I think I said it earlier in the piece as well, that they are probably the best in the world in summing up conditions. And yet, Sanjay asked I think Tim earlier about the 3-0 victory over India in Indian conditions, and I think tonight just sums it up.
Vernon, which makes me wonder, why can't South Africa be like New Zealand, come up with the plans that were needed for conditions in Pakistan and Dubai? Because everyone loves the kind of cricket South Africa play. But if you're saying New Zealand plan in that fashion, why can't South Africa do it?
Yeah, I think it's certainly an avenue that we have to be a lot more open-minded towards. I think from a management point of view, I think for years we stuck with our guns in terms of, backing our seamers. But I think these conditions are certainly crying out and to lead the way and to play the more attacking option. I think, so I think we need to go and reassess. And like I say, it's not our first tour to the subcontinent. I think there's generations that have been here before. So it is certainly time that, from a leadership point of view, that we start taking accountability and for generations to come, what's going to be effective, touring the subcontinent. And it's certainly in that spin department. We also have to then make sure that we produce the quality and the caliber of spinners to win your games in the subcontinent. But again, I think if you just look at conditions this evening again, I think you were harping on the fact that why Stabrice Hems you're not playing. I think you'd be definitely a much more effective option on those kind of surfaces. Given the fact that the seamers were just skidding on and batters really enjoyed the ball coming onto the bat.
Vernon, would it be fair to say that maybe what South Africa need, they've got a lot of things going for them, but somebody who gets them to think a little out of the box, somebody who will get Tabriz Shamsi in and make changes which aren't South African-like, but horses for courses? Do you think that would be the way? Because, you want to win the titles now, isn't it? Get into the finals and win the big tournament wherever it's being played.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a conversation that needs to start at the top. I think management need to be a part of it. And I think we need to be challenged differently. I think for far too long, do we persist with, seamers are going to win your games irrespective of whether it's at home or in the subcontinent. I think today was just illustrated again. Had we brought on spin a little earlier in the power play, you could have curbed, Ravinder from, getting off to an absolute flyer at the start. So those are little things that you have to put into play. And I think the puzzle at the moment, needs to be obviously, there's lots. And like I said, tough conversation needs to happen because, you can't just play one brand of cricket and hoping for, results to go your way. I think, conditions these days play a massive factor in all outcomes of cricket matches, and you have to factor in conditions. I don't think, you can be naive in saying that, we will go with our four seamers and go and boss a game in the subcontinent anymore. I think it's been proven, not only in this competition, but I think in previous competitions as well. So, it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had at the top.
Maybe that's the easier problem, Vernon. I know Ronak is supposed to be asking the question, but I'm very curious with you there, just getting an insight into South African cricket, because we've been watching South Africa from the Hansie Cronje days, Kepler Wessels as well. The kind of suggestions we made with the selection and planning, that can be easily resolved, I guess, planning and selection.
Might I actually come in there and say, can it actually be easily resolved? Or is that just a way of thinking? India and Australia have shown you can play four spinners. You could play debutants.
So what I mean to say is that if there's somebody who thinks, we need to have this kind of a bowling combination, or this is how South Africa will play, so that can be done if somebody is given the power. My question to Vernon is,
could you extend that on the captain?
Yeah. And what about the mental side of things? Because that is something a lot of people would be saying, here we go, South Africa again, looking so good before the game, and we expected a close match. Is there a mental side to what happens with South Africa, Vernon?
I think there's 100% the mental side to it. I think, if you come short so many times in front of that hurdle, I think every time, you get to that hurdle, I mean, let's not beat around the bush, those red flags are going to start popping up. But I do feel, it's a conversation, like I said, that needs to be happening at the top. I think we've got enough players playing in the IPL. They've got enough experience of playing on these kind of slower surfaces. So it is a conversation and an openness conversation. I think at the end of the day, you also need to be honest. Sitting around the table, when those kind of chats do transpire. But I do feel that from a talent point of view, I think South Africa's got plenty. But it's about making those right calls for the conditions at hand. And I certainly feel that we're not too far away from, obviously lifting silverware. But at the end of the day, like I said, those honest conversations will need to happen sooner or later.
It's very interesting that Vernon says that, because we spoke of New Zealand, and Tim Southee said that too, that they've played so much cricket here, IPL exposure. Both teams have had similar freedom
exposures,
with players, lots of players playing in these parts of the world. Yet New Zealand come in with the plans. I think now Tim's joined us after having a bit of a party, celebrating it with his former teammates. Tim, you got me loud and clear?
Yeah, I think the internet's just blowing up in New Zealand after that performance. So sorry about that.
No worries. Let's get into it. The conversation we're having with Vernon was reflecting on South Africa's perhaps plans not being anywhere near New Zealand's, who just had such control over the second innings, came better prepared. And I guess a number of us watching is, how is it New Zealand keep doing this? They always seem like they're greater than the sum of their parts. Whether they're playing in Dubai, whether they're playing in Lahore, they just
playing in Kenya.
Yeah, they just manage to come well prepared and get the job done.
Yeah, they prepare well, extremely well, very well planned out. I think obviously when you've got a score on the board like that, I think the batters set that up, but you can't take anything for granted. And I think the way they started with the ball, they kept the run rate in check. The wickets hadn't probably fallen as regular as they wanted in those first sort of 10, 15 overs, but to keep the run rate in check and keep driving that run required rate up. And then the smarts through the middle, the way that Mitch Santner is able to control the innings through the middle, and he's got so many options now with the balance of the side, with the guys like Phillips and Ravinder that he can turn to when conditions suit. So I think just a well-rounded squad, a well-rounded 11 with plenty of options and a very well-prepared side that I think plays some pretty smart cricket throughout today.
What's unique is that it's not unique to just this team, Tim. And I wonder, you played so much franchise cricket around the world. You've played in different dressing rooms, interacted with players of different cultures. You can say this if you want, because I genuinely have the question. Do New Zealand have the most amount of cricket-smart players, one generation after the next? It just seems like it's a well-oiled machine, no matter who's captain, who's coach, what generation's playing.
I think we worked out that we're never going to have the resources of the players that other countries have. We're a small country. So one of our strengths is our preparation, our smarts around how we play the game. We don't have a team of superstars, but we've got some very good cricketers. And if we play, we know if we play as an 11, more times than not, that gives us the best chance to be able to do something special. And you turn up at world events like New Zealand has for the last number of years, and with that mentality, well planned, play as a team, and play smart. I think those are a few things that have held us in good stead over the years.
Yeah, back to Vernon. I'm sorry, Tim. We was almost grilling Vernon, who's been a great sport answering. Yeah, I mean, as Indian fans who want South Africa to be a top-notch team. Just a word on Klassen, because here we go again. Big match. Got a good score in the last game, and even in that T20 World Cup final, couldn't quite get his team through. Has the skills, the ability. Is there something to read there, or it's just one of those things, Vernon, that you wouldn't look too much into?
No, I think first of all, well done, Tim, you and your team and your country. Long may the celebrations last.
Yeah.
But I do feel, look, I mean, I think Tim hit the nail on the head there. I think, when you talk about superstars, the word expectation comes to mind. And I do feel that, there's a great, obviously weight on the shoulders of a guy like Manjrekar. And I think this evening, when he walked to the crease, it was almost impossible for him to single-handedly win the game from there. So, again, it boils down to forming those partnerships, and gaining some momentum to release these guys, to put their skill on display. Again, I just don't think South Africa had the platform to allow a guy like him to come in and really dominate, in the manner which we all know he can. Again, I think, there's so much expectancy in terms of individuals in that South African lineup that, for me, again, you need to hunt in the pack. And I think once you start hunting in the pack, I think you can go so much further. I just don't think we've ever had the partnerships that, what was required. I don't think there was a fluency to the game to really, get into a stage to, get across the line this evening. So again, to answer your question, I just think there was, a massive sense of expectation on the shoulders of a class in this evening.
Yeah, it's going to be the last one from me on this, Vernon, I assure you. But is there a fear that with the last two ICC events that there might be a new batch of players that might also inherit the same mental barriers that used to come with ICC knockout games, or is that not quite a concern just yet?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a concern. I think the SA20 is breeding some young, new talent. I think it's a completely different mindset. I spoke earlier about, there's a different language being spoken in the changing room. I think when you chase 362, guys, let's face up to it. I mean, that's a mammoth task. So it's not, 9 out of 10 times you probably won't get there. So you need everything to go your way in order to chase that, that kind of runs down. So for me, again, I wouldn't read too much into this, to the performance this evening. I think by the fact that, well played New Zealand, they've summed up, they've come prepared, and they've challenged South Africa in every aspect, to make it as difficult as possible for them to get anywhere near that, that winning token this evening. So again, I think it's purely summing up conditions. And again, I will say this, that can be rectified, at the management level. You need to have that honest chat between management and players. But I do feel from a skill point of view, from a talent point of view, I think there's more than enough, in that department to get across the line at some stage.
Right. Let's talk about both captains for some time. And I'll come back to Vernon on Temba Bavuma, but you could maybe so impressed you are with Mitch Santner, who's now led New Zealand to an ICC final in his first ICC event.
Tactically as well, looks so good. Again, street smartness, having Glenn Phillips bowl virtually right till the end of his, spell, wasn't keen to go to the fast bowler because that is the trend, when you come into the 40 overs, you bring in the fast bowler. So seems very sharp as well with the reading of the game and leading by example. So you must be so happy for Mitchell Santner, Tim.
Yeah, it's been a brilliant start to his captaincy reign, and I think we saw the value of having those all-rounders as well. I touched on it earlier around Glenn Phillips and Rachin Ravindra, what they offer on surfaces like that where the pace bowlers were, I guess, slightly easier to hit, and we saw that towards the end there with the way that Miller was playing. But to have those other options and to have seven bowling options in various conditions, I think helps a lot. So to be able to throw the ball to a Glenn Phillips or a Rachin Ravindra really makes Mitchell's job a lot easier. But I think he's grown into the role. He's had a lot of success. He's very confident at the moment with how things are going. And he's also leading from the front with his performances. So it's been a dream start for him, and I'd love to see him have one more win.
With how well he's bowling, Tim, do you sense captaincy will bring out the best in Mitch Santner, the player, that we almost haven't seen that yet? While he's been a very efficient player, with captaincy, he might actually become one of the best players.
Yeah, I think we've seen he's been a great player in the white ball format for a long time. We saw the impact he had on the test matches he played in India. So I think in the last 12 months or so, he's probably very comfortable where he's at with his game. But I guess now with a different role in captaining the side, he's really grabbed that with both hands as well. And it's great to see him leading from the front and his performances as well as the way that he's leading the side. There'll be, like I said, he's very fortunate as well to have the likes of Tom Latham and Kane Williamson there as well, who have previously led the side. So just a very, very strong start to his captaincy reign.
Let's talk about his counterpart today. And there's a lot to like about Temba Bavuma. He's more than just the captain of the team. He's a symbol. He's a role model for South African cricket, Vernon. But with the next ICC event 2 years away, teams tend to make reflections and draw reviews and roadmaps for the next one. Temba still the man to take South African cricket forward in the ODI format?
Yeah, I think he's been a fantastic leader. I think what he has done over the last 24 months is he has started to win that changing room over. I think he's done phenomenally well in the Test match arena. And I don't think we play as near enough ODI cricket to pass judgment down on it. But I think you look at his numbers, you look at his record in the ODI format, I think he's been a wonderful player for South Africa. I think he's led from the front with the bat. Of course, this evening he just couldn't get going. But yeah, they were heavily reliant on his form, to get South Africa, obviously, to where they are this evening. Obviously falling one hurdle short of another final. But I wouldn't make that call too early. I think it's still early days. I think Temba still has a couple of years left in him. But I just think Cricket South Africa will need to have an overall look at the way they approach, the way they prepare. And again, that starts at the top. That starts from from your coaches, from your video analysis. What's going to make my players effective, and then you give the chant over to the captain and say, off you go. So, I just think there's a lot more planning that needs to be taking place heading into these tournaments.
Yeah. Temba, of course, has a WTC final to look forward to in a few months' time.
He's a good test captain.
Very good, very fine test captain. And I think we'd all be very happy. Kiwi and Indian, we'd all support Temba and South Africa when they play Australia in the WTC final, Vernon. So there's that to look forward to.
Absolutely. I think you have to give a lot of credit, in the way that they've turned their test, unit around as well. I think the last 18 months has been phenomenal. They've gone to Sri Lanka, to Bangladesh, which is a tough place to win. They've gone to get 2 test match wins there. They've gone to the West Indies, obviously playing Pakistan at home. Those are not easy series to win, but, they kept on chipping away, and I think they've gotten to that World Test Championship, the hard route. Many might say they haven't played some of the top nations, but they've definitely gone and earned that spot in the test, in the World Test Championship final. And thank you for your support. I'm pretty sure Tim will jump on the wagon of joining the Real Greens as well. But I'm pretty sure they've given themselves enough. They've given themselves enough confidence to be heading into that contest, confidently as well.
All right, we wrap it up there, but let's get a quick comment on the big one. One game to go. India v New Zealand. Tim Southee says he'd love to see Mitch Santner win one more. Would we expect to see an even more improved New Zealand side than what we saw in the last league game team that India would be wary of, fair to say?
Definitely a more improved New Zealand side, and India will be wary of them, although India overall have a little more quality in their batting and bowling, which is really horses for courses. The 2 big tall fast bowlers may not be ideally suited for Dubai. So I wonder whether New Zealand will think about making changes there. But that could be just one little area where India might want to cash in, because the others are pretty efficient.
Yeah.
The spinners and the batters, I think most areas covered, but a slightly improved New Zealand side for sure.
Tim, thoughts on areas that still need a bit of polishing? Would you be too bothered at all about the extra runs that were leaked towards the end of the innings when David Miller was having a free hit?
No, not at all. I think it would be nice to have wrapped that up, but I think David Miller showed his class, and to still win by 50 runs or so is a pretty confidence boosting win for the side to go into a final. And I said it earlier, Sanjay, they weren't giving too much away when they went to Dubai last time. It was a bit of a recce, go and suss out the conditions and come back in a few days' time for the final. So hopefully they can be better than what they were in Dubai, and it should be a cracking game against 2 very well balanced sides. I think you look at the batting depth and the bowling options that India have, and also with New Zealand as well. I think two very well balanced sides that have played some great cricket throughout the Champions Trophy.
Yeah, I love that. It's just a big plan to just let India drop their guard and feel good about the final. And as always, New Zealand break hearts. Yeah.
Great to watch Kane Williamson on one side, Virat Kohli on the other. Two very traditional batters making an impact. And then you'll have the dashers like Rachin Ravindra and from India, Shubman Gill. Lots to look forward to.
It's a repeat of the ICC 2000 knockout, India versus New Zealand. That's what the Champions Trophy was called back then. And of course, it was New Zealand's first ICC title all the way back in Nairobi 25 years ago. Vernon, Philander, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you for match day. I'm sorry that it's only been the one day, but I'm sure we'll have you again soon. Give me a prediction for the final before you sign off.
Yeah, I think it's going to be awfully close. I think Captain Fantastic versus Captain Calm. Look, I think it's going to be really tight. I'm not going to choose sides here.
Oh, good man, good man. And I wish you all the best for the Masters Leagues and whatever games you've got and everything else you've lined up ahead of you, Vernon. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vernon.
Thank you so much, guys.
Tim, I hope you're going to be back with us for that final. Just shift your body clock entirely for the next few days and we'll chat again soon. Thank you so much, Tim. Hope you enjoyed this.
That was brilliant. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Excellent. Sanjay Manjrekar.
Yeah.
I wish I could express the same happiness thanking you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought there was a final question here somewhere.
No, there's never a question. The questions are over. You've asked all of them. Thank you so much, Sanjay.
Thank you,
Always
sir.
a pleasure. And
Thank
you're going to be back with us for finals day. Now, might I remind you, before we wrap things up, that we've just announced something big. It's your chance, your possibility to chase your dream with ESPN Cricket for Crickcaster. If you've ever dreamt of being on this side of the game, breaking down moments, calling the action, bringing the excitement to life, here's your chance to make it happen with ESPN Cricket for Crickcaster, powered by Nexa. All you need to do is record a 1-minute video showcasing your cricket passion, analyze, predict, or simply speak your heart out. Post it on Instagram with the hashtags ESPN Cricket for Nexa and Crickcaster. Don't forget to follow ESPN Cricket for Nexa Experience. Mic waiting, stage set. You ready to take guard? Register now. We will be back in a few days' time for the final of the ICC Champions Trophy 2025. India v New Zealand. New Zealand join us for Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Matchday then. Bye-bye.
How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.